through another wild, woolly week. And I don't even know where to begin on this Russia disinformation Justice Department thing. Because, first of all, I don't trust the Justice Department, but I definitely trust Sebastian Gorka. He's involved in this in a strange way. When I think of Seb, the word fearless comes to mind. And he is a bold, fearless kind of a guy. And I've gotten to know Seb and his wife and daughter a little bit through the Alaska cruise that we did this year. And of course, I've worked with Seb for years. He evidently was approached by this shadowy media group that was apparently or allegedly being funded by Russia. And there are now 3 social media influencers who are in the hot seat. And I like all of them. I mean, I follow them. Benny Johnson, Dave Rubin, and Tim Pool. And they've got big social media footprints, and they are reportedly victims. Now, they were being victimized to the tune of a lot of money. A lot of money. Look, none of us are making minimum wage. And I'm mindful of that, and I'm grateful, and I always tell myself how God has blessed me with an income when people who work a lot harder and are a lot more, honorable than I am, make less money. That it just kind of comes with the territory that when you're a broadcaster and if you've got a measure of success, you make a certain level of money. But these guys, I mean, if these numbers are right, $100,000 a week, that ain't walking around money. And I don't know what to make of any of it because I don't get it. I don't understand any aspect of the story. I know that the Justice Department is coming along and screaming, Russia, Russia, Russia. Here we go again. Russian interference. And I'm confused about it because, of course, Vladimir Putin has announced he's endorsing Kamala. So I don't even know who's benefiting from what. This story about this, here's this headline at Axios, MAGA media ruptures over Russia scandal. And I saw a post on X from my friend and colleague Sebastian Gorka where he's kind of involved in this, or at least they approached him, and he said, absolutely not. I think of, as I said earlier, one word to describe the host of America First with Sebastian Gorka, and that would be fearless. And he fearlessly, you really walked away from $100,000 a week?
I can't remember if they were offering me as much as they offered Tim Pool and Benny Johnson and Dave Rubin. I mean, maybe it's my background in intelligence in the British Territorial Army. But look, when somebody you don't know very well offers you a lot of money for not a lot of work, you say, who's funding this? Who are your backers? This is Lauren Chen, who is running Tenet Media, we now know, for Russia Today, for the Kremlin. And she couldn't give me any good answers. And then she finally gives me 3 names, 2 of whom have minimal presence anywhere on the internet and have no background in media, zilch. And the third guy, who's supposed to be the big honcho, doesn't exist anywhere. A guy who's in his 40s and has no internet presence. I said, Lauren Chen, thanks, but no thanks. And the fact that these other conservative content providers couldn't spend 5 minutes of due diligence as I did means they knew they were working for the bad guys, or as Sean Spicer told me yesterday, they knew it was fishy, so they didn't ask any more questions, because when you're being given $5 million a year for an hour's worth of work a week, perhaps they just didn't want to know. Now, look, I know some of these people. Dave Rubin is a good guy. I'm sure he didn't know he was working for the Russians, but Dave, you should have known better. Likewise with Lauren Southern. Tim Pool, the fact that, and I played the clip on my show yesterday, the fact that Tim Pool released a video where he says Ukraine is the greatest threat to America, as he's getting $5 million a year from the Russians via Tenet Media. That makes you think, doesn't it, Mike?
It sure does, and of course the unfortunate aspect of all of this is that the mainstream media is using this as a reason to pounce on really all of us. I mean, the question becomes: are all the MAGA influencers compromised to some degree? I don't know if you saw what Senator Marco Rubio here in Florida said yesterday. I want to play this clip for you because I really trust your judgment, and obviously look at what you had the wherewithal to do. You asked solid questions. Where's the money coming from? You didn't get a satisfactory answer. You said thanks but no thanks, and you walked away. Clearly, some people apparently did not. Now, to be clear, DOJ is characterizing Tim Pool and Benny Johnson and Dave Rubin as victims, that they didn't know where the money was coming from. They thought they were working for a media organization. But of course, to your point, if you're getting paid that kind of money, what are you expected to provide in return? Nobody's going to pay you. But here's what Marco Rubio said, which really confounds me, and I want to get your take on this, Seb. Here was Senator Rubio yesterday on Fox News.
Okay, so disinformation is something totally different from what they are going after or describing. Disinformation is when you make up things that aren't true and you spread it so people think they're true. In this particular case, we are talking about pre-existing political opinions in the United States. These are pre-existing political opinions that have existed well before any Russian engagement or involvement or what have you. One of the indictments that came out yesterday, it does not allege that these people that they say were being funded by the secret donor that was hiding their true identity, they already had these opinions. They already believed in these things. They legitimately believe in the views that they're espousing. They were victims. They were targets of a fraud in which someone posing as just a regular investor had Russian money behind them.
Okay, Dr. G, now I'm really confused. Please translate.
Well, look, this is typical of Marco Rubio. I think he's a good guy, but he gets over his skis and he talks about things that he cannot know. How does he know that these people, all the views that they espoused while they're on the payroll for this cutout, are views that were pre-existing? How does he know that? Is he inside Tim Pool's head? Look, there are communications in this indictment which are shocking. One of the content providers, it's either Tim Pool or Benny Johnson, I think, if you do the math in terms of how much they're getting paid, it communicates with Tenet Media over the idea that Ukraine should be blamed for the recent terrorist attack in Russia. Not ISIS. We know it's ISIS, right? I mean, they caught the terrorists. And right. He says, yeah, I think I can do that. Hang on a second. That means you are getting paid to propagandize a lie, right? Ukraine didn't pay the jihadis. They were jihadis. And you're saying to the front company and to their backers, yeah, I could plant that idea that it was actually the Ukrainians who blew up, killed those people in that theater. That's right. Marco Rubio needs to read the indictment. But I will say one thing, and I'm taking heat for this, and I don't give a damn because I'm a big boy. But I'll tell the truth about this story because I'm affected, okay? And I realized it was a scam, and I walked away, or there was something fishy. But this is being used to attack good conservatives. Some of our colleagues on Salem, and I don't trust the DOJ as far as I can spit Merrick Garland out of my mouth. So there is a real story. Tenet Media was working for the Russians. Lauren Chen and her husband knew it. I hope everybody else was duped. I think some of them said the money's too good for me to ask questions. That in and of itself is moral turpitude. But at the end of the day, you know what this is all about, Mike. This isn't about the truth. This is about smearing all of MAGA supporters, all broadcasters, you, me, and everyone else, because they know they're losing. They need a new Russia hoax. As the great Rich Barris said on my show a week ago, the only pollster I trust, he said, it's not a good look for the Harris campaign. It doesn't look like you're winning when you're stealing the other candidate's platform. Now think about that. The open border Tsarina is saying she's going to build the wall. She's literally stolen President Trump's I'm not going to tax tips. You don't steal the other candidate's platform if you're winning. So I think the dropping of this story now, which is real, but its exploitation is occurring for political purposes 59 days before an election.
You know, it's inconceivable to me that the media isn't erupting in rage over the way Kamala and Tim Walz are shutting out the media. It's one of the worst political campaigns we've ever seen in the history of America. I really can't believe now, but I will say there are signs that there is starting to be a fissure. CNN did like a 3-4 minute piece about Kamala's using Trump's border wall in her own campaign ads.
Yeah.
After, it was, and I'm going to play that for everybody just here in just a moment. Axios is starting to call them out. Here's the latest flip-flop. Now she's for plastic straws before she was against them. I mean, it's the most putrid example of, you want to talk about a media scandal. How about the media accepting hook, line, and sinker that she's a viable candidate? Because, Seb, this is one of the worst presidential campaigns and candidacies in the history of America, and everybody knows it.
Look, let's put things in perspective. Okay, a 3-minute segment on CNN, and Axios does one mile
story.
of fatigue. I mean,
right.
Let's be clear. These are all prostitutes. These are all propaganda whores. Every single one of them, right? CNN, right. Axios, Washington Post. Why, Mike? For 3.5 years. They have said she's awful, right? She's had a 97% attrition rate of her staff in the White House because
right.
she's such an awful human being. They've talked about how she couldn't garner 3% in the primaries and dropped out first. They've called her the worst vice president the Democrats have ever had. And now suddenly that narrative disappears and, she's being a bit difficult about the debate conditions and the mic muting, and she used a picture of President Trump's wall in her campaign ad. They're all still prostitutes, Mike. Let's be clear.
No question.
Let's be
no
clear.
question about it. No question about it. They don't have a shred of integrity. They want her to win. The New York Times is clinging to a narrative that she could win. Look, I guess we have to accept that in this crazy world we're living in, maybe she could, but I don't want to accept that. I'm like Jesse Waters. I believe the polls that show Trump winning. Those are the ones I like, and we just got to keep fighting the good fight. And again, what an honor it is to be able to showcase to the world how honorable you were with this weird, messy story. It's why I'm proud to call you my friend and my colleague. Follow Seb on social media. Of course, America First, one of the best shows on radio and TV. And this is Gorka Week on the Mike Gallagher Show. I mean, yesterday I talked to the co-hosts of the Happy Women podcast. So we went from Katie to Seb on a Thursday to a Friday. And my entire conversation with Katie and Jennifer Horn available on the Mike Gallagher Show podcast. So, and you know what? I think we got to go back somewhere. If not Alaska, where to next? What's our next destination?
I'd love to go to Italy with all of our listeners. I'd love to be with you, with Chris, with Jen, with Katie. If you want to understand how we got here, I don't know if they mentioned it when they came on, but Katie's book with Mike Gonzalez, Next Gen Marxism, helps you understand. So let's me, Jen, Katie, Chris, Joey, let's plot about where we can go for our next listener trip. However, we don't do that until after November the 5th, okay? Because we have to win. It's up to us, guys. President Trump only has 24 hours in the day, the same as we do. It's up to us.
Each and every one of us. And thanks to warriors like Seb Gorka, we're going to get there. Keep fighting the good fight, my friend. Appreciate you checking in.
God bless you, Mike.
God bless.